So, watch night.
Yes.
I'm going to read a segment, my favourite segment, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
So,
You really want me to cry in this podcast, innit? Jesus. Here we go.
So today, I free myself from mental captivity. I'll sing out the cage and fly with sincerity above the lies, rumours, and accurate fables. Hope I've said that right. Yeah. I move on and upwards from each of those cradles. And then I'm fast forwarding to the last line. I'm black, I'm here, I'm Christian, I'm queer. Take me back to where you were when you wrote that.
Literally, I was on a bed. I knew I wanted to write a poem to share my story because I felt like writing a letter felt a bit too clinical.
Okay.
And writing a statement or some theological discourse or a diary entry was it wasn't necessarily me. I think so much can be said in art.
Yeah.
There's so much that can be painted in between the lines of art. There's a saying that stats and facts changes minds, but art changes hearts. And I could go into that a bit more in terms of like just how people quote scripture or quote poems or quote songs, or just sayings, cultural sayings, to like encapsulate years of struggle or years of story or years of theory or, like there'll be testimony service in church. I know a woman would stand up broken and can't tell her whole story, but just would say, nobody told me that the road would be easy, and I don't believe you brought me this far to leave me. And in those 2 lines or 3 lines would be decades of trials and struggles and pain and abuse and misuse and wrestling that she's climbed over and can't articulate or hasn't got the time to, but can like canon it in that verse. And I wanted to write something that was able to canon those 35 years of life in prose. And I wanted to do it from a place of sincerity, authenticity. I wanted to write something that if I died tomorrow, like if this is all I left on the earth, then that is enough. And so for probably a month, I woke up different days, not 5 a.m. every day, but different days. My brain works really well at 5 a.m. It's like super open. And just started to write different bits and try and work out what I wanted to say. And I think for me, that poem is my emancipation proclamation, and I wanted it to invite people into curiosity, at least, understanding, conversation, truth, the journey, possibility, a mirror, and just pay testament.
How long were you mulling over?
Are you crying? Are you okay?
I'm not crying.
Oh,
yet.
Okay.
How long were you mulling over it before you post it?
Oh, ciao. So I knew I was going to post it on my birthday.
Okay.
100%. By mulling over, like, what do you mean?
Like, is there a wrestling before you post it? Or are you like, no, I'm quite confident that...
On the day, there was definitely a wrestling. Because there's no going back.
For sure.
You know what I mean? There's no going back. So on the day, there was a wrestling. On the day, I was in DC.
Yeah.
I went to the Martin Luther... This is so dramatic. When I tell my friend I did this, they're like, Seth, you're so dramatic. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I went to the Martin Luther King Memorial.
Okay.
His statue is there in DC, as you know. And I sat on the park bench, just by the lake. I opened up all the apps on my phone, and my hand was like, so nervous, proper nervous. And then I pressed the post button. And I wanted to go to the Martin Luther King Memorial because obviously it's Martin Luther King, you know what I mean? And what that means to me, what he means to me, what that era meant to me in terms of civil rights and freedom and justice. And I think the sexuality issue, the gender issue, and other issues that we are seeing come to the surface in our community are things that we have to really question whether we want to be on the right side of history for. Okay. And time will tell.
What would you say the reception has been like? I want the honest answer as well.
So like, it's not been nothing that I didn't assume it would be.
Okay.
So it's very easy to dwell on the negative. But the negative has not gone beyond the remits of my imagination.
Right.
What has been extraordinary is I was saying to a friend the other day, she was asking me how am I doing. And I said to her, I feel like I'm unwrapping the gifts of God.
Okay.
I feel like I'm like at a Christmas tree and I'm just unwrapping like these amazing gifts that all have my name on it. And there are things that are happening in my life right now, even on the train here, that are so extraordinary that I can't tell anybody.
Yet.
Like, so extraordinary and doesn't make sense.
Okay.
That it's hard for me to share with people what is happening.
In a good way.
In a good way. Because I fear that they may get jealous or not understand, or I just don't want to seem bossy, you know? And I guess like, for me, like I said previously, to move forward in what you believe God has for you and the totality thereof, to adventure in this world and to enjoy his creation and to be the fullness of who he's created you to be, there are things that you're going to have to let go of. And pretense and not telling the truth, for me, was one of them. And the letting go of that has opened up windows and doors to possibilities that are beyond my imagination. And is that worth the negativity or the loss? I believe it will be.
What made you realise now was the right time?
Child, I'm 35 years old. I am old. I feel I'm old. I think time is there's a few answers there. I'll give you like a bullet point. Time is our most, I think I say it in the poem, time is our most expensive currency. Like we do not get time back. You're on this earth once. It is not a dress rehearsal. I ain't Jesus. I'm not coming back again.
Yeah.
I'm here once. And in this one life that I have, I've been gifted, this one life that I've been gifted with, through all the dangers, toils and snares that I've come through, I owe it to my future self and the child that has been able to get to this point to live in the light and not the dark.
Right.
And I think me turning 30, I was like, oh my God, again, similar to the Tiffin thing, like, what is this calling me to? Secondly, I know of hundreds of young people and elders, to be honest, that are battling with depression, struggling with drug addiction, suicidal or have committed suicide, hate themselves, hate what they see in the mirror, wrestling with theology and scripture, don't actually know what they believe. You'll be shocked at the people that don't actually know what they believe. I'm not trying to convert anybody to my belief system, but like whatever you do believe, make sure that it holds water. It's very easy to parrot what we have heard from the pulpit, or or just echo talking points, or just do Chinese whispers. But you got to really work out what you truly believe and what you don't believe. And that, you know what I mean? And do you know, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. And I genuinely, like, two more things. I genuinely wanted to, I think it's so important to be a good person, an integral person. Like, I want to look at what kind of Christian do I want to be? What kind of human do I want to be?
Okay.
What side of history do I want to stand on? That's beyond sexuality. That's the way that we treat women. That's the way that we treat the poor. That's the way we treat the immigrant. That's the way that we treat those that are on the margins of society. If you're having a worship conference or a prayer meeting or a convocation, and you as a church have not spoken about Israel or Palestine in one of those sessions or prayed in that regard, like, what are you doing? Like, are we just having a good time singing to each other? Joyful, joyful, Lord, we adore thee. Like, this ain't Sister Rat. Like, what are we actually doing as a body of believers? And then lastly, like, love. You are worthy of love, life and liberty. You are worthy to be seen. You are worthy to be desired. You are worthy to be all that God's created you to be. And when I truly was able to engage with that from a social perspective, from a mental perspective, from a theological perspective, from a spiritual perspective, I like, who the sun sets free is free indeed. And my struggle with addiction, my struggle with depression, my struggle with anxiety, my struggle with just all the things, like, that dissipated the more free I became. And so it was a lot of work to get there. And I know that I've been privileged to have access to some great information and great help and great support systems and amazing pastors and leaders and bishops and theologians and historians. And I've seen, exposure is everything. I've seen a lot and heard a lot beyond the cocoon of the genre of Christianity that I was brought up in, or the culture that I was brought up in, which can unfortunately either release you or confine you to the world. I remember doing Head Start, the prayer event that we were doing
at Cannon Street.
Which was amazing. I miss it, you know. It was so good. But I remember one morning we did one of the prayer sessions, and I just wanted somebody to pray for me.
Okay.
Just lay hands on me and pray with me. And that didn't happen that service or that whole week. And for me, that was a weird low of, like, how can I put it? It's important for me to do something that stops people thinking that everything is okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm buying into this optics thing now. It's almost like I became part of my own problem.
So would you say that was you just continuing what people know you to do, to mask that you're good, or
just not feeling that I could open my mouth and say I want someone to pray for me right now?
Right.
Can you imagine, like, being in that situation, that you're hosting your prayer meeting and you're too afraid to ask people to pray for you? The irony of it all. And then I think we do that as leaders. There's this, I think Jake's, or was it Eddie Lam, preached this series called Leading While Bleeding. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know why we continue to do that. We're not Jesus. We are not the Messiah. It's okay to be human. And when we end up putting people on these pedestals and expecting perfection from them, and then they don't, suddenly we realize, like, we see all the scandals across the church. It's because we realize, oh gosh, these people aren't human, and we've pressured them to be demigods, and it's not sustainable.
I've led from that space before, too many times. And I would say this year, 2024, has been the one year where I didn't have the capacity to lead from that space anymore. And it really it is deep, and it took me getting in front of the people that I lead and was like, look, this year nearly took me out. And as much as I want to continue to do this, I can't continue to do this in this fashion. So I need to draw back. And I don't know how long it's going to take. And I don't know how long I'm going to be out. But just know I'm not down. I'm just out. And the response from them was just like, I can't even begin to share, but I just don't feel like I've seen enough leaders do that. You always saw the polished version.
Yeah.
So it took me some breaking to be like, I really need to share with them that I'm not good. And in my absence, are you guys going to pull up or... And that's exactly what I got. Don't worry about it. You take us on. We'll do this. We'll do that. But you're so right in that too many of us lead and bleed. We shouldn't be normalizing that. And that's one thing this year that I was like, the leaders that are coming up in this space, you're not going to lead and bleed. You're going to bleed in life, but I want you to bleed and know that it's okay not to lead at the same time.
I think it's so freeing when that happens. At least from if I just take it back to like church beyond business, is it allows God to be God and you to be human. Like he is God and I am not.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I think we have this really we put a high value on authority in our culture.
Too much so.
And eldership in our culture. That we feel like when we arise into those positions of authority or eldership, then we end up becoming these versions of God. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I've become the most free, allowing God to be God and me to be me. And that's okay.